how hard it is to be lively on many of those days, how hard it is to just deal with family on many of those days, how hard it is to deal with God on many of those days. And Jesus understood that. Jesus understood that it was not just enough for this woman's physical disease to be healed. She needed to be healed in mind and in spirit. And he called her forth, and she came forth, and she was scared to death. What had she done? The teacher was going to make fun of me. He was going to cast me away like everybody else did. I know it. I can understand her fear. In the midst of all this crowd, what was he going to do to her? And she crawls up to him, falls at his feet, and sobbing, I can only imagine, sobbing, telling her story to him. And what does he do? I can picture it in my mind. He kneels down to her, takes this woman in her arms, hugs her close to him, and says, "Do not be afraid. Your affliction's been healed. Go in faith. Go back to your family. Go back to your friends. Be a real person again." And that was amazing for Jesus for a lot of reasons. One is because here was a woman who was ritually unclean, and Jesus touched her. If you look at Jesus' miracles, almost every single one, Jesus touched the person. Whether they were lepers, whether they were paralyzed or whatever, Jesus touched them. He understood what touch meant. I mean, if you look at that window right there, you can see a kind of a composite of Jesus' healings. There he's reaching out to the young girl, probably the daughter of the synagogue official we read about today. We've got the leper there. We've got the blind man in the back. The son of the widow of Naim being carried by the people. Probably the man in front in green kneeling on the mat is one of the cripples that he told to take up his mat and walk. There's also a shrouded figure in the back, hiding in the back. I don't know if that's Lazarus, who he rose from the dead, or maybe that's the woman hiding in the back, the woman with the hemorrhage. I don't know, but that's a figure back there. But there's a compassionate face of Jesus reaching out and touching, welcoming them back into the community, being the physical touch of God when they needed it. We need that today. There are times in our lives when we need that physical touch to help us to heal. And we pray to God for that. Now, most of the time, I would be willing to bet that Jesus is not going to come down and touch us. In fact, if you have seen Jesus come down and touch you, give me a call, and I know some nice place where you can go and rest very quietly, and they'll give you good medication, and they'll keep you very happy for the rest of your life. But for the most part, for us, that's not going to happen. But how do we do that? We do that precisely. God still needs hands. God still needs eyes. He still needs a voice to speak. Sometimes we need a hug, and where are God's arms to hug us if they aren't ours? We need to be the ones who reach out and touch, and not just friends and family, but those that nobody else will touch, to let people know that God welcomes them and that there are no such thing as outcasts in our world. We all know how it is to be sick. Every single person in this room, I would be willing to bet, knows what it's like to be sick at some point in time, and knows what it's like to be cared for when they're sick, knows what it's like to come and help. When I was growing up as a kid, I grew up in a Jewish neighborhood in New York and lived next door to this little old Jewish lady. Now, I have no idea how old she was. When you're 8, 9, 10 years old, anybody that's over like 25 is ancient. So she was beyond ancient. She was very crippled. She had very, very bad arthritis. Her fingers were all mangled. She could barely walk. But yet, she helped. There were 6 of us, myself and my 5 brothers. And whenever, as you know, you've got a few kids there, when one gets sick, they all get sick, right? That's the way it was in our house. When one gets sick, they all get sick. And there's my mom at home with the 6 boys all sick. She would come over, gnarled hands and all, bringing her big pot of chicken soup, and help my mom. She'd feed us, take care of us, help my mom with the housework and all. This little Jewish lady brought the hands of God, the hands of Jesus to us. And we can do the same thing. We don't have to go work miracles. We don't have to run over to St. Mary's Hospital or Mary Free Bed and walk up to people and say, get out of your bed, walk. Now, it would be nice if we could do that. We would take care of the whole healthcare crisis in the United States if we could do that. But I ain't holding my breath waiting for that to happen. But we still can go over to that hospital, to Mary Free Bed, to any, and bring God's peace to those people we know are over there by just going and visiting and say hello, sending a card. We can reach out to our next door neighbors. You know, the old man lives next door, can't get out to the store. Can I go shopping for you today? I'm going to the store anyway. I'm going to Myers. Can I get you something? You know, what do you need? Kids, you can go out. Can I help mow your lawn? That's what I did. That's how I earned all my money as a kid. I mowed people's lawns in the summer and I shoveled the snow in the winter. And also being in a rather Orthodox Jewish neighborhood, I also earned money by going on and doing all those things on the Sabbath for the little lady next door that she couldn't do, like turning on lights and unlocking doors and stuff like that. But yet it was all reaching out. And I never thought it was, you know, Jesus healing. But it is. We touch people where they hurt, in whatever way that is, just as we are touched in return. Even the story of the young daughter of the synagogue official, we read in the gospel today. What's the last thing that Jesus did in that gospel? I think it's very interesting. The very last line. Gave strict orders that no one should know about this, and he said that she should be given something to eat. Here's a 12-year-old kid who's been very sick. She's probably hungry. And everybody else there is rejoicing. Oh, Jesus healed her. Jesus, isn't it wonderful? Isn't it wonderful? And Jesus says, wait a minute, she's hungry. Get her something to eat. Jesus understood the reality of what hurt is in our lives and reached out and touched that hurt. Let us do the same. Let us be the hands and the eyes and the voice of Jesus. Let us be able to say to our friends and our neighbors and our relatives, do not be afraid. Let us touch them, even the ones that no one else will touch, because we are the presence of Jesus in the world. Let us ask the Lord for the grace and the faith we need to be able to do that. Let us hear in our own lives the voice of Jesus that says to us, do not be afraid, have faith.